Welcome to another masterpiece of mayhem, Cunning criminals. We will cover the Banco Central Heist. They tunneled under a bank and vanished with millions. How? Imagine pulling off the perfect bank heist. Not with guns blazing or hostages crying, but with nothing more than shovels, determination, and a plan so audacious it seems like fiction. In 2005, in the sweltering heat of Fortaleza, Brazil, that's exactly what happened. A group of men who posed as a legitimate landscaping business spent 3 months tunneling under a city, only to emerge inside the vault of Banco Central, walking away with $70 million, making it one of the largest bank robberies in history. This isn't just another heist story. This is a tale of engineering genius, meticulous planning, and a crime so perfectly executed that it would make Ocean's 11 look amateur. Welcome to the story of the Banco Central Heist, where truth is stranger than fiction. 3 months before the robbery, a group of men arrived in Fortaleza, a coastal city in northeastern Brazil. They weren't carrying guns. They weren't wearing masks. Instead, they came with business licenses, work uniforms, and a simple sign that read, "Grama Sintetica," artificial grass. Now, these men weren't gardeners. They were about to orchestrate what the FBI would later call one of the most sophisticated tunnel jobs in criminal history. The landscaping company rented a commercial property at 1270 Rua 25 de Marco. To anyone passing by, they appeared to be just another small business setting up shop. They even put artificial turf in the window display. But what the people of Fortaleza didn't know was that this location had been chosen with surgical precision. It sat exactly 78 meters from the Banco Central's vault. Now, let's pause for a moment and consider what it takes to dig a tunnel of this magnitude. This wasn't just a hole in the ground. This was a feat of engineering that would have made mining companies jealous. The tunnel they constructed was 78 meters long and 4 meters below street level. It had its own lighting system, wood-paneled walls, and an advanced air circulation system. They even installed plastic sheeting to prevent water seepage. But here's where it gets interesting. The gang didn't just dig randomly. They used engineering plans of the city they'd somehow acquired to avoid water and gas lines. They studied architectural blueprints. They calculated load-bearing weights. This wasn't just a crew of thieves. These were sophisticated engineers mastering a professional science. They strategized, they planned, and solved problems. For 3 months, they worked in shifts, carefully removing dirt and rock, implementing support structures, and moving closer to their target inch by painstaking inch. The soil they removed, they didn't just dump it somewhere obvious. Instead, they gradually disposed of it in different locations across the city, never raising suspicion. The tunnel itself was a masterpiece of criminal engineering. Just 70 centimeters wide and 1.5 meters high, it was perfectly sized to allow movement while minimizing the amount of soil they needed to remove. They used professional mining equipment, including pneumatic drills and battery-powered lights. The walls were reinforced with wooden planks and metal brackets. They even installed electric fans to circulate air and prevent workers from suffocating. As they got closer to the vault, they had to be even more careful. The bank's security systems included seismic sensors designed to detect any underground movement. But the gang had done their homework. They knew exactly where these sensors were placed and how to avoid triggering them. Finally, after 3 months of back-breaking work, they reached their target, the vault's floor. But they couldn't break through just yet. They needed perfect timing. That timing came on a Saturday, August 6, 2005. The bank was closed for the weekend. The vault, containing millions in uninsured cash, sat unguarded above them. Using precisely calculated measurements, they drilled through the meter-thick reinforced concrete floor of the vault. The hole they created was just large enough for a person to squeeze through. What happened next would shock the banking world. Over the course of hours, the gang methodically emptied the vault of 160 million reais, about $70 million. They didn't take everything. They were selective, choosing only unmarked, untraceable bills. They left behind roughly 100 million reais in marked notes that could be traced. But here's the detail that still amazes investigators. There was no break-in alarm, no security breach alert, no indication anything was wrong. The vault's steel door remained locked. The security cameras showed nothing unusual. It was as if the money had simply vanished into thin air. The robbery wasn't discovered until Monday morning when bank employees arrived for work. By then, the perpetrators were long gone, having vanished as methodically as they'd appeared. The landscaping business was abandoned, the tunnel professionally sealed, and the money? Well, that's where our story takes an even more interesting turn. The aftermath of the heist reads like a crime novel. As news of the robbery spread, Brazil was captivated. This wasn't just a theft, it was a humanitarian crisis. The amount stolen represented a significant portion of Fortaleza's physical currency. Some banks in the region had to close temporarily because they didn't have enough cash to operate. The police investigation that followed revealed just how sophisticated the operation had been. The gang had rented their commercial property months in advance, paying all their rent and utilities on time. They'd registered their business legally, filed proper paperwork, and even paid taxes. They'd built relationships with neighbors, waved hello to passers-by, and became part of the community. But as with many perfect crimes, human nature proved to be their undoing. The gang members, flush with cash and confident in their success, started making mistakes. Some began spending lavishly, others talked too much. The police, following a trail of suspicious purchases and loose lips, began making arrests. 5 months after the heist, police had arrested over 20 suspects connected to the robbery. But here's the kicker. Of the $70 million stolen, only about $8 million was ever recovered. The rest seemingly vanished into Brazil's vast criminal underworld. And the masterminds? Many believe they never were caught. The arrested suspects were mostly lower-level operators, the diggers, the lookouts, the money carriers. The brilliant minds who planned the operation, who understood engineering well enough to construct a professional mining tunnel under a major city, who knew exactly how to bypass the bank's security systems, they remained shadows. The Banco Central Heist wasn't just about the money. It was a wake-up call for banking security worldwide. It proved that sometimes the greatest threat isn't from armed robbers or cyber criminals, but from patient, methodical criminals willing to spend months planning and executing the perfect crime. The robbery exposed critical vulnerabilities in banking security. How could a bank lose $70 million without anyone noticing? The answer was simple yet profound. They were looking in the wrong direction. While banks fortified their walls, installed better cameras, and hired more guards, they forgot about what was beneath their feet. Today, banks worldwide use seismic sensors, regular ground surveys, and other technologies to prevent tunnel-based robberies. The Banco Central Heist changed how financial institutions think about security, forcing them to consider threats from literally every angle. But perhaps the most fascinating aspect of this heist isn't the money stolen or even the ingenious method. It's the questions that remain unanswered. Who were the masterminds? Where did most of the money go? How did they obtain such detailed information about the bank's security systems? Some speculate that bank employees must have been involved, given the precision of the operation. Others believe corrupt officials provided crucial information. The truth? We may never know. What we do know is that the Banco Central Heist represents something unique in criminal history. It wasn't just a robbery, it was a work of criminal art. The planning, the execution, the attention to detail. It was perfect. Almost. As we look back on this extraordinary crime, we're left with a strange mix of awe and unease. Awe at the sheer audacity and skill involved. Unease at the realization that somewhere out there, the masterminds might be planning their next job. The Banco Central heist reminds us that sometimes the greatest threats don't come from brute force or sophisticated technology, but from patience, intelligence, and the willingness to dig deep, literally and figuratively, to achieve the impossible. In the end, this isn't just a story about a bank robbery. It's a story about human ingenuity, about the thin line between genius and criminality, and about how sometimes the most incredible stories are the ones that happen right under our feet.